It always begins quietly. A single drop cutting through the static, landing on asphalt that still remembers the heat of the day. For a moment, the world pauses, caught between exhaustion and release. The rain doesn't ask for permission. It simply arrives, like forgiveness after years of silence. You watch as dust dissolves into movement, as the city exhales a breath it didn't know it was holding. That first drop carries weight, the promise of change, the mourning of what must be washed away. It's the smallest possible beginning, but inside it lives an entire universe of transformation. Healing never starts with thunder. It starts with the subtle sound of something breaking open. The tension between what was and what could be. Between pain and renewal. Between noise and the soft rhythm of surrender. In that single drop, falling from a forgotten sky, the story begins. Not of destruction, but of the quiet mercy that follows it. The city reflects the storm before it even begins. The streets shimmer like mirrors, bending the world upside down. Skyscrapers dissolving into water, headlights swimming like restless constellations. You realize the sky isn't above you anymore. It's beneath your feet. The rain paints everything in motion. Neon signs ripple. Traffic lights bleed into colorless rivers. The city becomes an abstract painting, alive, unfiltered, vulnerable. Every drop carries fragments of reflection, each one showing a different version of the same truth. Beauty and ruin are made of the same light. You walk slowly, feeling the world breathing again through its broken surfaces. The asphalt hums with a kind of music, a low electric hymn for everything still standing. For the first time in a long time, you stop trying to run from the storm. You listen to it. You let it speak. Because maybe the sky was never meant to stay above us. Maybe it needed to fall, just once, to remind us that even the heavens must learn how to touch the earth again. After the storm's first assault, the city looks almost holy. The rain has stripped it bare, peeling away its arrogance until only reflection remains. Puddles gleam like open wounds stitched with neon, and every broken sign, every flickering bulb seems to whisper the same thing. Nothing is truly destroyed, only transformed by light. You can feel it under your shoes, the pulse of electricity seeping through water, the heartbeat of a world that refuses to die. The streets glisten with fragments of color, red, violet, cyan, like veins running through the body of something immense and wounded. In this aftermath, beauty feels accidental. Trash glitters like constellations, glass shimmers like faith reborn. The city has become a cathedral of ruin, and you, its quiet pilgrim, walking through the echoes of everything that fell apart. Maybe healing begins like this, not in perfection, but in the luminous wreckage that follows collapse. Because even ruins, when bathed in light, learn how to shine again. The air after rain feels charged, alive, like the city itself is trying to remember how to breathe. Steam rises from manholes, mingling with smoke and neon, creating a fog that moves like thought. Everything hums at once. Traffic, lights, electricity, memory. And in the middle of it, your breath becomes rhythm again. You start to notice how sound behaves differently after a storm. It's softer, less certain. The static that once suffocated now seems to pulse with possibility. The chaos hasn't disappeared. It's just slowed enough for you to move through it. Each breath feels like an act of rebellion, proof that even in an electric world, the body still matters. You realize healing isn't silence, it's harmony. It's learning to breathe with the noise instead of against it. To exist in the interference, to find stillness inside motion. The city exhales, and you with it. A fragile equilibrium, fleeting and human, glowing faintly beneath the hum of static light. The storm fades, but the lights don't. Neon keeps breathing, steady, defiant, eternal. It hums in every puddle, every window, every reflection. It's the city's heartbeat, refusing to rest. The glow seeps into your skin, painting you with color you didn't ask for, turning you into part of its endless vigil. Neon was born from darkness. It only exists when the world goes dim. That's why it feels alive at night, why it seems to whisper that beauty can survive even in ruin. Each sign flickers like a pulse, trying to remember its rhythm. Some letters gone, some barely holding on, yet still they shine. You walk through alleys where the light bends and breaks, where shadows dance against pink and cyan halos. The rain has stopped, but the city hasn't. It glows like memory, bright enough to see, soft enough to hurt. The neon that never sleeps isn't just electricity, it's endurance. It's the proof that even when the world burns out, something in it refuses to turn off. Beneath the polished asphalt, beneath the hum of traffic and the glare of billboards, the city remembers. Every crack in the street is a scar, every manhole cover a sealed confession. The rain reveals it for a moment, seeping into the fractures, tracing the veins of forgotten time. There's something haunting about the way water finds memory. It doesn't choose where to go. It simply follows gravity, flowing toward what was buried. Beneath the pavement lie old lives, old stories. Laughter swallowed by demolition, promises paved over in the name of progress. The ground is alive with ghosts we no longer notice. When the rain falls, it wakes them. You can almost hear it, the faint echo of footsteps from another decade, the heartbeat of a city that once believed it could outgrow its own sorrow. Healing, perhaps, begins like this too, not by building over the past, but by letting it rise again, if only for a breath. The rain retreats, but the memory remains. The city dries, pretending to forget. Yet deep below, the pavement still hums softly, remembering everything we tried to erase. When you look down, the puddles still tremble with sound. Each ripple carries the residue of a voice, a horn, a heartbeat. The city speaks in reflections now, its language fragmented, translated through liquid and light. Every drop that falls creates a brief universe, then disappears. You realize how fragile memory truly is. It doesn't fade all at once. It dissolves, one wave swallowing another, until nothing remains but the shimmer of what once was. Water becomes an archive, storing moments too fleeting to name. A face passing by. A sentence half heard. A feeling you can't trace back to its origin. You kneel, watching the distortion, the way reality bends just enough to reveal something truer than its surface. In the reflection, the world looks softer, more forgiving. Pain ripples, but so does light. And for a second, both seem to move in perfect rhythm. Maybe that's what healing really is, not erasing the echoes, but letting them find harmony inside the noise. Every storm begins long before the rain. It starts with pressure, unseen, building slowly in the air, in the body, in the spaces between what we say and what we hold back. The clouds only appear once it becomes too heavy to bear. You feel it in the bones of the city, the tension before release, the electricity that hums just beneath the skin of every building. Streetlights flicker in anticipation, cables vibrate like nerves waiting to snap. It's not just weather, it's emotion, returning to its element. When the storm finally arrives, it's not chaos, it's clarity. The downpour doesn't destroy, it reveals. Dust turns to movement, noise to rhythm. The world sheds its disguise, and for a brief, trembling moment, everything feels alive again. Every human heart knows this pattern, the quiet build-up, the violent release, the fragile calm that follows. We fear the storm, yet it's the only thing honest enough to cleanse what silence cannot. And when it passes, nothing is the same. But maybe that's the point. Destruction, too, is a form of truth. In the glow of the city, faith has found new altars. Screens replace stained glass, and our confessions are typed, not spoken. We kneel before algorithms now, praying for attention, validation, the illusion of being seen. Every like becomes a blessing. Every silence a quiet damnation. We've built our gods out of circuitry and light. Plastic saints glowing in store windows, their halos powered by electricity. The divine has been reformatted, stripped of mystery, redesigned for convenience. We no longer believe in salvation. We subscribe to it. And yet somewhere in this electric devotion, a question lingers. What are we really worshiping? The connection or the reflection? We send our prayers through fiber optic veins, hoping they reach somewhere beyond the noise. But maybe the signal doesn't travel outward at all. Maybe it loops back, returning to the one place we've forgotten to look, within. Even digital prayers can echo, if the heart behind them still remembers how to feel. After the storm, time changes shape. Seconds stretch, minutes dissolve, and every sound seems suspended in the humid air. You can feel the city holding its breath, unsure whether to begin again or stay in the stillness a little longer. Waiting has a texture. It presses on the chest, soft but relentless. There's a peculiar ache in moments like this, when nothing happens, but everything feels possible. The lights flicker. A car passes. Water drips from the edge of a rooftop like the ticking of a slow, invisible clock. In this quiet suspension, you realize how heavy anticipation can be, the burden of not yet. We wait for answers, for healing, for the next version of ourselves to emerge from the mist. But waiting isn't absence. It's gestation. The pause before a note, the inhale before speech. It's where transformation gathers strength. The rain has stopped, but the air still trembles with memory. And in that trembling, something unseen is forming, something that only reveals itself to those patient enough to stand still beneath its weight. The city hums like a body that never fully healed. Every light that flickers is a heartbeat misfiring, every siren a pulse of pain that never fades. You begin to realize that electricity itself feels like a wound. Beautiful, vital, but never resting. It runs through cables, through veins, through thought. It keeps everything alive, but never lets anything truly sleep. There's a certain intimacy in this kind of damage. The way neon glows brighter when the storm passes, how broken circuits buzz louder just before they die. Even the city's scars emit light, as if trying to convince us that hurt can be luminous too. Maybe that's what survival looks like in a digital world. Not wholeness, but function. Not healing, but current. We keep moving, even when we're burning. We keep shining, even when we're cracked. The electric wound doesn't close. It hums softly beneath the surface. A reminder that being alive means being unfinished. Always flickering between pain and power. No one teaches you how to unravel gracefully. The world rewards control, composure, the illusion of steadiness. But there's an art in breaking. The quiet choreography of collapse. The way things fall not with chaos, but with strange precision, as if the universe knows exactly how to dismantle what no longer serves. You start to see it everywhere. The peeling paint on forgotten walls, the flowers blooming through cracks in concrete, the way rain collects in broken places first. Falling apart isn't failure. It's a return to truth. It's the moment before rebirth remembers its shape. In our desperate attempts to stay whole, we forget that fragmentation has its own kind of beauty. When you break, light enters through the seams. When you shatter, reflection multiplies. It's only in pieces that you can finally see yourself from every angle. Maybe the art of falling apart is simply the courage to stop resisting gravity, to let the collapse become creation, to let yourself be ruined in order to begin again. Some nights carry a strange mercy, the kind that doesn't erase pain but softens its edges. Tonight feels like that. The storm has washed everything raw, and the city glows as if it's been forgiven. Neon reflects on wet pavement like veins of liquid fire, and for once, the darkness doesn't feel cruel. It feels tender. The usual ache that lingers in the air, the loneliness, the noise, the ghosts of unsaid things, seems to fade beneath the rain's quiet rhythm. It's as if the night itself has forgotten how to despair. It just breathes. It lets the world exist without judgment, without demand. You walk through the glow, feeling something unfamiliar, an ease, a fragile sense that maybe healing isn't something you earn, but something that happens when you finally stop searching for it. The city doesn't need to be perfect tonight, neither do you. The neon hums like a lullaby, the puddles shimmer like stars fallen to earth, and for the first time in a long time, the darkness feels like home again. If you listen carefully, the city has a heartbeat. It's not in the noise above ground. It's buried deep beneath your feet, steady and low, vibrating through the layers of steel and stone. Subways, water pipes, electricity, all of it moves like blood through arteries, giving life to something that shouldn't be alive, yet is. You stand still, feeling it. The faint tremor beneath the soles of your shoes, the almost imperceptible rhythm that connects everything, the cables, the buildings, the people who never stop moving. It's the pulse of continuity, of something ancient, disguised as modern. You realize then, the city isn't made of metal and glass. It's made of motion. Every vibration, every hum, every flicker of light is a heartbeat echoing through its veins. And if you slow down enough, it syncs with yours. In that moment, healing feels less like recovery and more like recognition, the understanding that even when everything seems inanimate, something beneath it is still alive, still moving, still waiting for you to feel it. When the storm finally breaks, the city doesn't return to what it was. It becomes something else entirely. Every color sharpens, every surface glows. The air hums with electricity and forgiveness. Neon signs flicker through the mist, their light bending through raindrops like stained glass from some forgotten cathedral of the future. You stand there, drenched and breathless, watching as the world rebuilds itself through reflection. The rain doesn't erase the city's scars. It illuminates them. Each puddle mirrors what was broken, now gilded by color. Each light carries the memory of darkness it survived. There's a kind of holiness in this aftermath, a baptism of concrete and current. The chaos has passed, but its memory still lingers, like warmth after lightning. You feel it too, that fragile equilibrium between ruin and rebirth. Neon after rain. It's not just an image. It's a metaphor for every soul that's ever been cracked open by life, only to discover that beauty doesn't begin after the pain ends. It begins the moment the light touches what's still wet from the storm. You catch your reflection in a puddle, distorted, trembling, alive. The rain has turned the street into a mirror, and for a fleeting second, the face looking back feels both foreign and true. There's no filter here, no control over the image. The water shows everything. The exhaustion, the softness, the small flicker of something trying to return. Reflections in still water are honest in ways glass can never be. They move with you, but they're never fully yours. They remind you that identity isn't static. It ripples, bends, reforms. The person you were before the storm is gone, but not lost. They linger in the surface, waiting to be recognized without illusion. You realize healing doesn't come from looking away. It comes from seeing yourself clearly, even when the view wavers, especially when it does. The reflection doesn't flatter. It doesn't hide. It tells the truth gently, as only nature can. And when you step through it, when your reflection shatters into circles of light, you understand. The water wasn't showing you what you are. It was reminding you that you're still becoming. Healing isn't chaos, it's design, not loud, but deliberate. It builds itself in silence, brick by invisible brick, beneath the noise of your everyday thoughts. You don't notice it happening until one day you realize the weight has shifted and something inside you is standing again. The city teaches this lesson in its ruins. Cracks are filled, windows repaired, New lights replace the ones that burned out. But what makes the city alive isn't its ability to fix. It's its refusal to stop rebuilding. Healing is not about erasing damage. It's about learning how to live beautifully with it. Every act of mending, physical, emotional, spiritual, is architectural. It requires patience, proportion, and space. You can't rush structure. It has to breathe into being. So you walk through streets still drying from the storm, and you feel it. The symmetry returning, the balance quietly restored. Not perfect, not untouched, but standing. That's what healing really is. Not a miracle, but an architecture of endurance. There's a moment between drops when the world forgets to move. No thunder, no chatter, no hum of electricity. Just a hush so complete it feels sacred. You can almost hear the air thinking. It's in that pause, fragile and unmeasured, that healing hides. We spend our lives searching for meaning in sound, in words, in proof. But the truest revelations live in what isn't said. Silence is not emptiness. It's the breath that carries everything else. The rain teaches this gently. The beauty isn't in the falling, but in the space that allows each drop to exist alone. You stand still, drenched in quiet. The city doesn't need to speak, and neither do you. In this gap between motion and rest, you find something softer than peace: acceptance. The silence between raindrops is the world remembering how to listen. And if you stay there long enough, you start to remember too. Healing rarely begins where everything is whole. It begins in the fractures, those thin, imperfect lines where light can finally enter. The city knows this well. After every storm, its beauty lies not in the untouched, but in the broken surfaces that reflect the most color. You walk past walls streaked with moisture, windows cracked but glimmering like stained glass. Every imperfection becomes a prism. The world doesn't hide its damage, it refracts it. And in doing so, it creates something new, light that has learned to pass through pain. We are no different. The places within us that once felt like wounds are the same places where understanding now shines. What breaks us isn't what defines us. It's what allows truth to take shape. Standing in the aftermath, you realize light doesn't avoid the broken. It seeks it. Because illumination has no meaning in perfection. It only finds purpose where the world has dared to fall apart. Even after the rain, not everything leaves. Some things linger, softly, invisibly, like the smell of ozone or the echo of footsteps on a wet street. These are the ghosts of moments that refuse to disappear. The city carries them in silence, like breath held too long. They aren't frightening. They're gentle, almost tender. The residue of what was once alive. The laughter that still vibrates against an empty wall. The shadow of a person who used to wait beneath that same streetlight. The memory of who you were the last time you stood in this place. The ghosts who stayed are reminders that not all endings are erasures. Some simply fade into light. They remain to witness the transformation, to make sure the world remembers what came before the renewal. You feel them watching, not as eyes, but as presence, familiar, wordless, kind. The past doesn't vanish after the storm. It stands quietly in the distance, allowing you to rebuild without forgetting. Because even ghosts understand. Healing is not leaving behind what was. It's learning to live alongside it. The air after rain is unlike any other, heavy yet clean, metallic yet alive. It carries the faint perfume of soil waking up, of concrete cooled by surrender. It smells like endings made gentle. Like forgiveness, you can breathe. You close your eyes, and the scent becomes memory. Childhood afternoons under storm clouds. The first time you believed that beauty could be quiet. The last time you stood still long enough to feel the world beginning again. Renewal isn't loud. It arrives like fragrance, soft, invisible, impossible to capture, but undeniable once it's there. Every breath feels like an exchange. The city exhales what it no longer needs, and you inhale what you were missing. There's a kind of grace in that, a conversation between you and the world, unspoken but understood. The scent of renewal doesn't promise perfection. It promises presence. The simple truth that everything, no matter how worn or weathered, still has the capacity to start over. You stop at a puddle that hasn't yet faded, a small portal of water caught in the hollow of the street. The city bends inside it, buildings upside down, clouds beneath your feet, light trembling like a secret it can't hold still. You lean closer, and for an instant, you see yourself surrounded by a world reversed. The puddle doesn't show perfection, it shows distortion. It reminds you that reflection isn't about accuracy, but awareness. You don't need the image to be clear for it to tell the truth. You just need to look long enough without turning away. Inside that liquid mirror, you glimpse every version of yourself that once believed healing meant return. But healing isn't going back. It's learning to live inside the blur. The puddle ripples. Your face dissolves into color. Maybe that's the point. Identity, like reflection, isn't fixed. It's movement, vibration, impermanence. The puddle teaches what the mirror never could. That clarity isn't truth. Fluidity is. Under the soft haze of neon, you start to see it. How the cracks shine. Every scar on the city's skin, every dent, every stain left by time catches the light in a way untouched surfaces never could. The rain didn't heal them, it revealed them. And somehow, that revelation feels like grace. We've been taught to hide what's broken, to smooth over pain until it disappears. But wounds don't vanish. They transform. They absorb color, reflect memory, become proof of survival. The city glimmers not despite its damage, but because of it. You realize the same is true within yourself. The places that hurt the most are also where the light finds its way in. Scars, when seen under the right light, look almost beautiful, reminders of everything you endured and everything you're still becoming. Maybe healing isn't about closing wounds at all. Maybe it's about learning to let them shine. Because light doesn't avoid the broken, it chooses it. Decay is often mistaken for death, but it's really a form of generosity. When things fall apart, they give themselves back to the world. Metal rusts into earth, leaves dissolve into soil. Even buildings, once proud and towering, soften over time, edges blurring, colors fading, until they return quietly to the dust that birthed them. You walk past a crumbling wall streaked with rain and realize there's beauty in this surrender. Decay is honest. It doesn't fight the inevitable. It transforms it. It teaches the city and you that endurance isn't about staying unchanged. It's about allowing yourself to become part of something larger. Healing often begins where resistance ends. The kindness of decay is that it asks for nothing, yet gives everything: texture, depth, truth. It doesn't erase, it recycles. What was rigid becomes fertile again. In the faint scent of wet rust and moss, you understand. Not all endings are cruel. Some are simply the world remembering how to give itself back. Hope isn't weightless, it has gravity. It pulls quietly, imperceptibly, toward what might be. Even when buried beneath rubble or drowned in rain, it remains. An invisible force bending reality toward renewal. You can't see it, but you can feel its pressure in the chest, that gentle ache that insists on continuation. In the city, hope behaves like light, bouncing off wet surfaces, refracting through glass, surviving even in fragments. It doesn't need the sun, it only needs something to reflect from. That's its science. Resilience through redirection. Hope doesn't erase darkness. It coexists with it. It's the equilibrium between despair and persistence, the faint hum that keeps hearts beating in places that should have gone silent. You realize it isn't an emotion. It's physics, the constant momentum of the human spirit. Even after collapse, the atoms of meaning rearrange themselves into possibility. And so the city glows again, not because it's healed, but because something inside it refuses to stop shining. Forgiveness isn't light at first. It's heavy, dense, almost unbearable. It presses against the ribs like something foreign. We mistake it for surrender, when really it's transformation, the slow release of what no longer belongs to us. But when it finally arrives, forgiveness feels like air returning to lungs that forgot how to breathe. You think of the rain washing over the city, not asking who deserved it. It cleanses everything equally, windows and trash, wounds and flowers. That's what forgiveness is. Not selective grace, but total release. The freedom to let the past be what it was, and to stop carrying it through the present. There's a silence that follows real forgiveness, not emptiness, but weightlessness. You feel it in your chest, the absence of what once burned there. The city feels it too. The air is lighter, the reflections sharper, the light more patient. Forgiveness doesn't erase, it untethers, it lets the soul float again, quiet, unburdened, finally free to rise. Every step you take echoes over layers of forgotten footsteps. The city doesn't forget, it archives. Every cracked tile, every faded sign, every whisper carried by the wind holds memory. You can feel it beneath the surface, the quiet hum of everything that's ever passed through here. The rain helps the city remember. It pulls the past to the surface. Names carved into stone, stains left by time, reflections of faces that no longer belong to this moment. And as you walk, you realize that these streets know you too. They've memorized your rhythm, your pauses, the way you hesitate at the same corner each night. The streets don't judge, they just keep record. They hold pain and joy with the same devotion. They remember the lovers who met under neon signs, the arguments lost to traffic noise, the lonely figures walking home through puddles of light. And maybe that's what makes the city eternal. It doesn't move on. It absorbs. It transforms memory into texture. And through that, it keeps every story alive. Even yours. Letting go doesn't look like surrender. It looks like light-changing color. The way dusk fades into indigo without argument. The way the city stops reflecting pain and starts reflecting peace. You notice it first in the air, softer, cleaner, almost translucent. Then in yourself, the sharpness dulling, the pulse slowing, the ache turning into quiet. Every act of release repaints the world. The things that once felt unbearable lose their outlines, dissolving into new shades of meaning. Regret becomes memory, memory becomes story, and story becomes light, the kind that doesn't blind, but warms. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's choosing to stop rehearsing the same scene in your mind. It's allowing the rain to wash over the same wound until it stops hurting to touch it. The color it leaves behind isn't sadness, it's serenity. You look at the wet city glowing in its palette of neon and shadow, and for the first time you understand. Every hue of healing begins with the color of release. Morning creeps in like a slow confession, spreading pale light across the drenched streets. The city's surfaces glisten, metal, glass, water, all merging into a single reflective skin. Everything looks new, but not untouched. Tomorrow isn't a clean slate. It's a palimpsest, carrying traces of every storm before it. You realize that the future doesn't arrive. It unfolds, quietly, layer by layer. Beneath the glow, yesterday still breathes. Every healed wound leaves a faint outline, a story etched into the skin of what comes next. The city doesn't hide these marks. It wears them like proof of survival. You reach out, touch the cold surface of a lamppost beaded with rain, and it feels alive, warm underneath, pulsing faintly with electricity. Tomorrow isn't somewhere we go. It's something we build with our hands, our breath, our persistence. The skin of tomorrow is fragile, luminous, and already scarred. But it's ours, and for the first time, that feels like enough. You find them outside a closed shop, plastic flowers, perfect and unchanging, their colors bright against the darkened street. The rain falls over them anyway, sliding off their petals as if trying to convince them to feel. Around them, real leaves tremble, real stems bend, real life surrenders to the weather. But the plastic ones stay immaculate, untouched, and empty. For a moment, you see yourself in them. How often we try to appear unweathered, unshaken. We polish our surfaces, rehearse our smiles, harden ourselves against the world's storms. But perfection is sterile. It reflects light. It doesn't absorb it. The rain continues, soaking everything that's still alive. And slowly you understand. To feel the rain is to belong to it, to change, to break, to bloom again. The plastic flower never wilts, but it never grows either. Healing, you realize, is the opposite of preservation. It's participation. It's saying yes to being altered by what touches you. When the first light arrives, it's not golden. It's blue, cold, metallic, artificial. Streetlights flicker against the gray sky, refusing to fade, as if unwilling to surrender the night. The city wakes through electricity, not sunlight. And yet there's beauty in that defiance, a dawn made by human hands. You stand on the corner as everything hums to life. Trains beneath your feet, windows lighting one by one, the low static of a world rebooting. It's not a sunrise, it's a surge. And somehow it feels fitting. This is what rebirth looks like now, not soft, but charged. Not natural, but real. The electric dawn isn't warm, but it's alive. It reminds you that even in a manufactured world, light still means beginning. The circuitry buzzes like veins awakening, and in that sound, you hear something ancient, a will to continue. You take a breath that tastes like rain and metal, and it feels pure. The city doesn't need the sun to start again. Neither do you. Light has a grammar of its own. It speaks through contrast and silence, through the way it touches what was once unseen. In the aftermath of storms, it doesn't shout, it whispers, translating ruin into radiance. Every reflection becomes a sentence, every flicker a verb of becoming. You start to notice the syntax of it everywhere. The way light bends around broken glass, how it pools beneath street lamps like punctuation at the end of an unfinished thought. The way dawn writes itself on windows still damp with rain. Light doesn't explain, it reveals. It speaks the truth only to those willing to look slowly. The city listens, absorbing each phrase of brightness. The rain made the surface receptive. Now illumination fills the cracks. It's the purest language we know, older than speech, softer than forgiveness. Impossible to translate, but impossible to forget. And in learning to read it, you realize understanding doesn't always come from words. Sometimes it comes from how the world begins to glow again. By midday, the city exhales. The rain has gone, but its rhythm lingers in the puddles, in the faint shimmer that clings to glass. The air feels lighter, open, as if every window, every brick, every vein of metal has learned to inhale again. The storm wasn't destruction. It was instruction. It reminded the city, and you, how to breathe. Traffic resumes. People return. But something subtle has shifted. The noise doesn't dominate. It harmonizes. The chaos has rhythm now, shaped by everything it endured. You walk through it, sensing a quiet order beneath the motion. Healing doesn't mean stillness. It means the return of balance, of pulse. The city feels human again, flawed, unpredictable, alive. Its breath rises through steam vents, drifts over rooftops, mingles with yours. You realize that the city and its people share the same lungs, that every storm, every silence, every sigh of recovery belongs to both. And in that shared breath, life begins again, not perfect, but possible. Silence returns not as absence, but as presence, slow, luminous, deliberate. It fills the spaces between sounds, softening edges that once felt sharp. The city no longer trembles. It hums in harmony with stillness. Every drop of water drying on glass, every reflection fading from the pavement feels like a quiet act of resurrection. You walk through streets that no longer demand attention. There are no sirens now, no shouts, no restless urgency, only the low pulse of existence, distant footsteps, a window opening, the wind moving through what remains. This is what rebirth sounds like, not triumph but peace. Silence, once terrifying, now feels sacred. It holds you without judgment, invites you to rest in its rhythm. It's the sound of healing made audible, the moment the world stops performing and simply is. And as you stand there surrounded by this stillness, you understand. Silence was never the end of the storm. It was the part that made survival mean something. The city moves again, but differently. Its pulse has changed. Slower, deeper, more deliberate. The chaos that once defined it now feels like rhythm, not noise. Every sound, a car door closing, a train emerging from a tunnel, a voice breaking the morning air, fits perfectly into a new kind of harmony. The city hasn't healed completely, but it has learned how to live with its scars. You realize healing doesn't erase the wound. It teaches it to breathe. The cracks in the pavement, the stains on the walls, the flickering signs, they all beat together, a symphony of imperfection. The rain didn't fix the city, it tuned it. There's beauty in this rhythm, a fragile coexistence between damage and grace. The pulse you hear now isn't the city's alone. It's yours, synchronized, patient, alive. The storm changed the beat of everything. And in that new tempo, you finally hear what was missing all along. Not perfection, but continuity. The sound of life learning how to go on. You see them sometimes, in reflections, in dreams, in the spaces between raindrops. The versions of yourself that didn't survive the storm. The one who clung too tightly. The one who broke too soon. The one who mistook silence for emptiness. They linger quietly, watching, not haunting, just existing as proof of what it took to arrive here. The ghost of who you were doesn't vanish when healing begins. It walks beside you, softer now, less certain, but still part of your shadow. You feel them when you pass the places that used to hurt, when your heart stutters before remembering it's safe again. You don't need to banish them. You only need to listen. Every ghost carries a lesson. What to release, what to keep, what to forgive. They are not remnants of failure, but witnesses of endurance. And as you walk, you realize the truth. Healing doesn't replace who you were. It integrates it. You don't become someone new. You become someone whole. Evening returns, but it feels different now. The light doesn't conquer the dark. It collaborates with it. Shadows stretch softly across the pavement, not as omens, but as outlines of life reclaiming its shape. You notice how they move with the wind, how they pulse gently with the flicker of distant neon. For the first time, the shadows don't feel heavy. They breathe. They seem to grow like living things, tender and deliberate. Proof that even darkness, when given space, can nurture something new. The city's wounds, once stark against the light, now glow from within, as if illuminated by memory instead of pain. You understand then that healing isn't the erasure of shadows, it's their transformation. The light doesn't destroy them, it teaches them how to bloom. Every healed heart carries its own dusk, its own private garden of what survived. And in this twilight, the world feels whole again, not divided between dark and light, but balanced beautifully between both. Tea happens quietly, so quietly that you almost miss it. The hum of traffic softens, the air steadies, and for a fleeting instant, everything feels aligned. The city, the sky, the trembling remnants of rain, they all seem to exhale together. It's not triumph. It's not celebration. It's forgiveness. The world forgives itself in small, invisible ways. A child laughs in a place that once echoed with sorrow. A flower grows through a crack that wasn't meant for life. The air carries no bitterness, only balance. Even the ruins look gentler now, as if they've accepted their purpose. To remind us that breaking is part of being. You realize forgiveness doesn't come from above or beyond. It rises from within the world itself. From matter remembering, it can begin again. From time deciding not to hold a grudge. From you, standing here, breathing, no longer fighting what has already passed. The world forgives itself the moment we do. And in that surrender, everything begins to glow. It falls long after the storm has ended. A single drop sliding from the edge of a window, trembling in the light before it lets go. It lands softly, almost soundless, yet it carries the echo of everything that came before. The thunder, the flood, the silence, the renewal. That final drop isn't the end. It's punctuation. A pause between cycles, a quiet reminder that even closure has rhythm. You watch it merge with the others on the street, absorbed without resistance, as if returning to something ancient. Every ending wants to return home. The city stands still for a heartbeat. The reflections fade. The colors soften. What remains is the residue of peace, the understanding that not everything needs to begin again right away. Some things are allowed to rest. The last drop teaches what storms cannot, that stillness is part of the rain, that completion is not disappearance, but integration, and that even after the water dries, its shape lingers, in memory, in air, in you. Dawn rises not with sound, but with color. A pale glow spreads across the wet streets, turning puddles into liquid mirrors, turning glass into fire. The city, still damp from the storm, reflects itself like a newborn seeing the world for the first time. Everything shimmers with possibility, the quiet miracle of continuation. Light doesn't descend suddenly. It unfurls, unfolding like forgiveness across the horizon. Every building, every scar, every remnant of the night receives it without question. The rain has passed. The wounds remain. But now they glisten. That's the secret the storm was trying to tell all along. Nothing is destroyed. Everything is transformed by light. You stand still as the first true warmth touches your face. Not the neon hum of survival, but the golden breath of beginning. You realize that rebirth isn't dramatic, it's humble. It happens each morning when the darkness doesn't return. And as the city awakens beneath the newborn light, you finally understand. The purpose of the storm was never to break you. It was to teach you how to shine after.